This is the Ross Grimsley Show, hosted by former Orioles and All-Star pitcher Ross Grimsley and Stan the Fan Charles. The Ross Grimsley Show is brought to you by Sliders. Stop by Sliders, Baltimore's favorite local sports bar, to watch all of the big games, enjoy a fancy Clancy beer, and their daily food specials. Sliders is located just 771 feet from home plate, across from Camden Yards. And now, take it away, Ross.
Welcome, everyone. Ross Grimsley here. Kyle Ottenheimer over there with me today. Stan the Fan is out. How was your weekend, buddy?
Very relaxing.
Very relaxing.
Very relaxing. I cannot complain at all. I mean, even if I did complain, nobody would care, right?
It wasn't New Orleans. I get
That's
that.
the truth, unfortunately.
We were talking earlier, my Father's Day. And
happy Father's Day to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Back at you if you're a father.
I'm not, but I have a father. He had a father. And
exactly. Y'all got fathers.
Yeah.
Okay. But, yeah, I had a big day. Sushi with my daughter and Godzilla movie.
Are you the type of person that just over-orders sushi so that when you go, you have,
went bananas. Again, as usual, but that's the big thing.
I feel like you have to, though.
My daughter wanted to know what you wanted to do. I said sushi and Godzilla. I'm a big Godzilla fan. Been all my life.
I don't even know if that's Father's Day. That sounds like just any kind of day would be great like that, you know?
Exactly.
Right.
And we do that a lot of times, too. So anyway.
Well, I'm glad you had I heard that the seat was a little too comfortable in the movie theater.
Fell asleep 3 times, but my daughter smacked me enough that I didn't miss. I probably saw 90% of the movie.
Well, that's her duty, right? It's
exactly
Father's Day.
Right.
You've got to make sure.
Got up a little early. Was a little tired, so it worked out. It was great, though. Anyway, today, hey, we got Jim Palmer on.
I've heard of him.
Yes, I think he was a tennis player,
moderately successful athlete, if I remember correctly.
I think he's in that Hall of something.
Maybe
Fame, Hall of Fame. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Really,
I think he talks for a living now, right?
Yes, he does. It does a good job of it. Great to have. I can't wait to hear some. I got some questions. I need to ask him. I need to hear his answers.
Well, knowing Jim Palmer, you might only get like 3 of them in.
No, I'm going to work hard. He's great. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit. Let's talk a bit about the news and notes over the past week, and obviously we'll get the Orioles. They had. I had a much better weekend than they did. And I'm sure you did too. So.
Yeah, I didn't technically lose any games. So, yeah.
And it was ugly losing too, but we'll get to that. And,
well, there was a lot that happened in baseball,
yeah,
thankfully.
really. I mean, I tell you, the one thing was the game between the Brewers and the Astros last Wednesday. 24 strikeouts. Now, there were 15 by one pitcher.
And Verlander, right?
Yes.
I mean, he's masterful.
Exactly. But 24, and not to be, think that's a lot, but it was done. It was done once, extra innings too. It was done once before this season. So that's twice, 24 strikeouts.
It's certainly a lot. Like, it's a lot. There's supposed to only be 27 outs for each team. So, like, you're talking about almost half if you were playing 9 innings of the outs.
Struck out 24 times.
And so, look, it bears mentioning that Justin Verlander can strike out people with the best of them in Major League history.
No,
but it also comes at a time when the league is maybe a little bit more strikeout prone.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Home runs, they're on pace to hit 6,500 home runs. Strikeouts are going to go out of the roof. They're going to break another record this year.
Right? Yeah, continue to.
It's bizarre. But Ohtani from the Angels hit for the cycle, first Japanese-born player to ever do that.
I don't know how you can't love that guy.
No, wait till he starts pitching again.
I mean, the fact that he's capable of it, the fact that he already did and was. I mean, he's as exciting a talent as baseball has probably ever seen. I mean, look, Babe Ruth. Not many people today can remember what Babe Ruth was like, and even his pitching was probably something that goes a little less heralded.
You know what they just sold his jersey for?
Ooh, $3 million? How much?
They sold his jersey for $5.6 million. This was
$5.6 million.
$5.6 million. 1928 to 1930, that was a jersey. The previous record was his 1920 jersey.
I would like to know
$4.4 million.
Who's the guy buying these? Like, who's the guy and what's he doing with them?
I got a friend in Memphis.
Okay.
That is a big Dodger fan. Now, I think he would spend money. People it's whatever they want to pay.
Now, look, it's worth. Far be it from me to tell anybody how to spend their money, and hopefully the person who's doing this, has enough money where 5.6 is a drop in the bucket. Must be nice.
That's a ton of money for a jersey. But yeah, Ted Patterson here in town used to be a writer, used to be a sports writer here in town. He has he lives in Towson. He has 3 stories, townhome of nothing but memorabilia.
Does he live in it also?
Yes.
Okay. That's
yes.
Good.
So I mean,
not just like
he don't know what to do with it, and I said auction it off, and he's got you just. I went over there.
You think probably the Hall of Fame would be interested in some of it?
I tell you what, it was unbelievable. I mean, old. He's got baseball, football, old Colt stuff, but programs, just stuff. It's unbelievable. I didn't jerseys, tops.
That's crazy. I mean, a lifetime collecting can.
Yes, it has.
Yeah,
well,
since
he was. I mean, before I got here to Baltimore, he was writing, but getting autographs, getting things, and he's got quite a collection. But that was amazing. I tell you, another thing that happened last night: San Diego and Colorado broke a record for most runs scored in a 4-game series.
Well, the Padres have been tearing the cover off the ball. Machado's been helping. I mean, that's a team with a lot of really good young talent.
San Diego won 14-13 last night, and they won a pinch hitter pitcher. He walked with the bases loaded.
They have unbelievably talented young outfield guys. They can't even play all the guys every day. Like, they have too many. It's a really for what they like. People wanted to chide Machado for going to play in San Diego, but there's in a couple of years, in 1 or 2 years, maybe even as soon as this year, right? There's a path to them being a very good baseball team.
If this continues the way the way it could go, they could be really
and their
really
pitching
tough.
needs to come along a little bit, right?
Whose doesn't? I mean,
but they've
what's
got
amazing?
the young arms.
Oh, exactly. But that's what you see that the young arms, and they throw very well. But the bullpen relief pitchers, their earn run average is as high as it's been. Oh, in all of baseball.
Sure. Well, the Orioles
since 2000.
Another
thing.
Immune to that problem. Michael Givens again last night.
You scratch your head. This guy and Castro have actually went backwards, and they have got two of the premier arms. I mean,
as far
throw
as stuff is concerned, it's the two best.
Unbelievable.
Right? Probably in the entire team.
But they were better the last 2 years than they are now.
Castro is somebody that I've never been able to place faith into. He's just the command. It maybe in a game you'll get it, maybe in a stretch of 3, but it's just never really there. It's the reason why the Blue Jays were comfortable getting rid of him, right?
Oh,
that arm is too good.
They're basically throwers. Is
Agreed,
what it is, and you watch it. They have.
And Givens showed more than that before. I thought Givens was.
He's not a closer.
That could be it. I mean, if it's. But then you'd.
Just look back. He has pitched better when that pressure. I think he puts it on himself.
Well, you saw after he gave up the home run. He looked fine, right?
A little pressure, and that's no knock. Really, not a knock on him. That's not his forte. His thing is a setup guy. Maybe a middle inning guy for a couple innings.
That's a bit of a conundrum for the Orioles, though, because if you want to talk about like what's best for the team long term, it's showcasing Givens to pitch well, however that is. If you could put him in a setup role so he could succeed, and so he has value at the trade deadline, then you should do that.
They have nobody else to do this, to do his job, and they're giving him that opportunity. But he doesn't have that mentality to do that. I mean, you're going to see Armstrong. Armstrong's a pitch. I think more emphasis now is on velocity and how hard you throw and less about where you throw it. But you take Armstrong, who's not an overpowering guy, he throws strikes.
And it's a tricky thing with relievers, right? Like, as a baseball fan, and I'm certainly still in that category, I haven't heard of a reliever until I've heard of a reliever. You kind of get what I'm saying?
Right, no, exactly.
You kind of doubt that a guy, when he comes up in this context, is going to be anything other than a quad-A guy. But if he can stick and put together 6 consecutive strong performances, suddenly that guy is a setup man on this team.
Right.
And so it's the weirdness of the 2019 Orioles a little bit in a way, and the bullpen certainly needs more than 1 or 2 guys to step up.
They have had some problems, man. And I tell you, you look at the they talk about the young players that they have on the Orioles. A lot of them have played 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years in the minor leagues. Some of the mistakes they're making, I mean, mental mistakes, the physical mistakes you can live with, and occasional mental mistake, but some of the stuff that's going on.
Well, you don't like to see them repeated either.
No, absolutely not. But just some of the things that you think you would learn, at the lower levels of minor league to prepare you to go to the big. If you played 10 years in the minor leagues, some of the mistakes you shouldn't be making mentally.
And you saw that's what Brandon Hyde did after the Saturday's game. He apparently leaned into them a little bit.
He wasn't real happy. That's the most that he's really. He was frustrated, and understandably so.
In the last couple of days for different reasons, but he's been.
But you look at what happened yesterday with the
Broxton
bunts. He runs 5 feet on the grass. why are you doing that? I just, and then he's
a right-handed hitter, correct?
Yeah.
So
but
like
still,
the quickest, the argument,
exactly.
even if it's still wrong, is that your path to first base is at an angle, right? You're going to inherently be on the grass as a right-handed hitter if you're just trying to run to the straight line to first. But you got to know what you can and can't do.
I asked a former major league umpire that rule. You know what happened, and what happens is he actually, if the runner intentionally interferes with the throw, he can not only call the runner out, he can call the runner at third out. So that would have really caused a ruckus right there. But still, I mean, it was running the way he ran. Obviously, the pitcher had to throw the ball. Best thing to do is throw and hit him.
Sure, because then you're just proving the point, right?
Out. Well, no, then you're out.
But that's the point, right? He's in my way.
But he tried to throw. He didn't give him a chance to do it. But what really fried everybody off is the runner had to go back to third base. But there was other things. If it had been
a regular play,
there was other things that happened in that game. It's just like runner at second, no out, Severino up. Here's a chance to move the runner. He took call third strike on the outside part of the plate. There's your chance to hit the ball to the right side and move the runner. They don't do that.
Those aren't. Let's be honest. Those aren't the guys that the Orioles have this year, right? Like those are. That's the difference between quality and finding themselves in the big leagues. Is that like even Chris Davis would not.
Here's a guy. Severino has played a long time.
I've been impressed by what Severino's been able to do this season. He's probably done more than I would have expected, but if he were putting 0-2 pitches on the outside of the plate into left field or right field, like opposite way, he would be a starting catcher on a good baseball team, right? Like,
I mean, you should be able. You can't take the third strike.
Agreed. You got to protect.
And that's like playing the shift. You got a left-hand hitter up, you play everybody on the right side, and they're throwing balls away, just giving you. They're making it easier for you to 100%. Do. But there's a chance.
But they also know you can't or won't.
There's a lot of guys. There's a time to do it. There's a time to swing for the fences. But it shouldn't be that tough. It shouldn't be that tough for guys.
But they're not shifting because they don't. They think there's a chance you're going to hit it to the right side of the field, right? Like they're shifting because the data shows that
exactly.
And look, I was as much of a pull hitter as any. Like it was a problem, right? Like you threw a pitch on the outside of the plate, there was no chance I was hitting the other way. Like it's something that some people are you just swing, you got holes in the swing, and that's just how you're doing it. And
I mean,
and by the way, somebody asked you. Grims, can you still throw an inning of relief?
Oh gosh, from 40 feet maybe. If you give me 6 months to get ready. It's. I mean, that's one of the things we need. Not only the Orioles, but baseball needs guys to throw more strikes. That's the games are long enough, and they're talking about getting the computerized umping. That will turn the games into 5 hours.
Well, if they can learn how to throw strikes, then technically it can shorten it, right? Exactly. But that's the problem.
That's been one of the problems here with the Orioles in pitching. Their minor league system. I mean,
to be fair, it's been drastically improved. The system with the pitching now has probably more depth. Guys
at the lower levels.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But you look at. What's the main problem here at the big leagues with the Orioles?
Well,
with pitching.
Where do we start?
We'll go pitching first. We'll get to the pitching.
Realistically, the biggest problem right now has been the bullpen.
Yeah, but overall, walks and home runs.
Yeah, and they put away. There's not a lot of. They don't have. There's nobody with put away pitches on this team right now.
And Gibbons those 3 changeups in a row, and that's his third best pitch. The game's on the line. He throws 3 changeups. That guy hits his second home run of his career, and both of them were off of Gibbons. But you look at Norfolk. They're last in ERA, first in home runs. 7th and they're in the middle of the pack on base on balls.
That's a pitcher's ballpark.
That's your AAA. That's your AAA team.
In a pitcher's ballpark as well.
Bowie. Yeah. Bowie is first in home runs, middle of the pack, strikeouts, and base on balls.
I mean, it's really only down there of the starters who have succeeded. I mean, at the minor league level, at either of those two. Keegan Aiken has been the guy at AAA that you still have some hope for.
Yeah, but he's not an overpowering guy. No. And he needs more time, and they're not going to rush him up there. I mean, they need help, but they don't.
They do and they don't, right?
They don't. I mean, because you want to be at least somewhat competitive in these games.
The thing is, right? Like, if you want to talk about the starting pitching, I would say that with the trio of Cashner, Bundy and Means.
Yes.
They have at least 3 average to above average major league pitchers in that group, right? For starters.
Yeah, exactly.
For starters. And that's as much as I would have expected entering this season. You probably would have thought it would have been Cobb instead of Means. But one way or another, you've got those 3.
Yeah.
You hope Bundy continues to pitch as well as he has.
And he has been, he has been a pitcher.
The problem is, in my opinion, is the bullpen.
No,
because even if you wanted to try to bullpen a game together, right, to do an opener, there's not the arms aren't there. It's just you could not piece together 9 innings with this bullpen ever.
What happens? Your starters don't get deep into games. They got to get deep into games occasionally to rest the pen. But getting back to what I was saying with the minor leagues, you look at Frederick. They first in home runs given up, the most base on balls,
and there's some talented arms there, right? And there's people figuring it out.
Of
course, the exception is Delmarva, who's been superb.
So Delmarva, who is first in a lot of categories,
everything pretty much.
They have first in the ERA, second lowest home run given up.
Sure.
Third most base on balls. My whole point is base on balls and home runs, especially at the upper level. That's been a problem, and it's been a problem over the years for Oriole pitching. So I don't know what's going on, but you watch some of the Oriole pitchers that look like throwers, Castro, Givens, maybe some of the other guys. There's a few other guys, I can't think of them right offhand, but I think I don't know if more emphasis is put on velocity for these guys.
How about Tanner Scott, right?
Tanner Scott's another guy you hadn't heard. He hadn't thrown that bad, but he doesn't. He
does his fastball. It's beautiful. It's 100 miles per hour, but he has no idea where it's going.
No. And sliders improve, but there's guys that you got to throw strikes. That's the bottom line. Look at the guys that have the most success. They're around the plate. They know how to pitch. They're at least able to hit a spot a couple times in a row.
Think about a guy like Koji Uhara, right, who made a 10-year career out of just being able to locate 90 miles per hour.
Well, look at your greatest pitchers in the Maddox, Catfish Hunter.
But I think even in today's day, like Koji was doing it when everyone else was starting to throw 95, 96, and it was finesse with him. But the spotting and being able to mix up pitches and his splitter was pretty fantastic as well.
Absolutely. Knew when to use it. Smoltz is a guy that went from starting to the bullpen, and like he said, I could have thrown 96, 97. I wouldn't have lasted very long, but that's kind of the way it looks now. Is I want to get the most out of you that I can for 4 or 5
Right.
years.
How many innings at 96 can you give us?
Yeah, really.
Right.
And that's how the game has changed now. It's a power game, and it's I don't know if a lot of people are really, especially the older people, they want to see more strategy and what have you. But the home runs are flying out of the park. It's getting to be a.
People talk about juiced baseball.
There's a little bit of everything. So the part. Look at some of the balls that are hit. Mancini hit the ball out with one hand yesterday. I thought it was a pop fly to center field.
I had only seen Chris Davis do that before, but before this season, I suppose.
There's guys hitting balls out the other way. There's pop flies going out. The guys go. They look up and they start drifting the balls.
And look, it was
20 feet out of the.
It was a humid day in Baltimore yesterday, so it's not as if it wasn't one of those. But yeah, I agree. It seems.
No, it's you just go. Wait a minute.
It's got to be the launch angles,
Oh, absolutely. Launch angles, whatever else. It's all kind of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely the Orioles pitching wise, they need to really they're last and are at the bottom in just about every category. Home runs, that really kills them. When they hold the other teams to 3 runs or less, they're 12-4. 4 runs or less, they're 14-13. So they're right kind of there. So that makes it really interesting. So it's and offense has been actually a little bit of a problem as well. The O's, they've lost their 9 of 11. They've lost 13 of the last 17, 21 of the last 27. On the homestand, they were 1-5, and they've lost 5 in a row. They're 1-12 versus the AL East. They're 1-12 the last 13 AL East games.
That sounds
it's
about right. Unfortunately,
no, 10-22 versus the AL East. So it's
been a rough go.
It has, and you expected it. You didn't. I don't know if they expected it to be this bad, but you expect them to probably lose. But you were hoping they'd play a little more fundamentally sound baseball and not with the mental mistakes. So that's that's really been an issue. So anyway, our guest today, no introduction, you don't need, Jim Palmer. Cakes, how you doing, buddy?
Well, I've been out on the streets here in San Francisco.
Oh.
I had to get my wake-up call real early, for you guys.
I didn't know you were there. I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah,
I figured you'd run a couple miles, maybe played some tennis or golf.
No, let me tell you something. My knees don't run a couple of miles anymore.
And I know your back was bothering you last time I talked to you.
Well, I need a laminectomy, which is, I have a little stenosis, which I've had. I mean, my back hurt when I was 23. Here I am 50 years later. I'm going, that's my worst problem. It's just finding the time to actually, they go in and they actually open up the canal a little bit, hopefully, and then, again, it's more nerve pain than anything. But
you need some medicine.
So, you pitched what? I don't know. As many innings as we did, something's got to hurt, right?
No, really, no kidding. Hey, Cakes, give us your impression and your thoughts on the O's rebuild and Elias and what they're doing.
Well, they know what they're doing. It's just it takes time. I mean, don't you think? I mean, I know I'm a Type A personality, so I think if you're if you're trying to talk to everybody and say, well, we need to be patient, it's not always easy to do. I heard your comments, and first of all, it's a pretty tough division. Everybody knew that the Red Sox, they spent, $30 million more than anybody other team in baseball last year. They won a world championship, so the Yankees didn't like that, so they upped their spending, and they've had all their injuries. They're still playing particularly well. I don't think anybody thought that Tampa Bay would who won 90 games after that most of their better players, at least high-price spread players, leave, would again be as competitive as they are. But they work the system, and they have the analytics, and they have a lot of good young players, and they're pitching, and I think they lost Alvarez is on a personal leave, and so the back end of the bullpen's hurt a little bit. But again, I don't think anybody thought they were going to be as good as they were, and then we just saw if you don't play well, what happens if Toronto comes in with Vlad Jr. and we saw BGO's son hit a couple of home runs. Mm-hmm. And he was hitting under 200. So, it's a tough division. So you got to play well. But I don't think, you and I as former pitchers, at some point, the guys they send up here have to pitch a little bit better. I mean, I'm talking about, I think we get so enamored in the radar again. We go, well, this guy goes 93 to 98, but where's the ball going?
Right.
I sat with Gordon Lakey, who's been, he retired this year after being 50 years as a scout. And, the old radar guns used to be at home plate.
Right.
Now they're out of your hands. So
Correct.
When a guy's throwing 95, it's in the old days, it's probably throwing 91 or 92. And if you're throwing the ball down the middle and the ball's juiced and you're pitching in Camden Yards, if you look at the Orioles home, there's only won 9 games out of 37 games at Camden Yards, but the ERA, is over 6 1/3 runs a game. So it's not an easy place to pitch. I know if I pitched there, then a lot more 3-2 sliders and changeups and things like that. Just trying to any ball in the air in Camden Yards. Right. It's just ridiculous how the ball's going. So from a pitching aspect, I think it's a little disappointing. John Means, what a what a revelation.
Right.
Roy Firestone used to be our bat boy down in Miami. He lived in Miami Beach and went on to, do 5,000 shows for ESPN. He texted me, he says, "Is Means just a number 4 starter?" I said, "No, he can pitch. He can throw the ball on both sides of the plate. He's not overpowering. His average fastball is 91 miles per hour, which is below the league average, but he's got a good changeup, and he throws enough curveballs and sliders, and he throws the ball downhill, and he went and worked on his windup 5 days a week for the month before spring training. So he did his homework. And, when you see guys like that, you root for people like that because they have an idea. And we have a lot of guys, and Noah's all right, but again, he's not a strikeout guy. And today, if the hitter comes up to home plate saying, you know what, all you got to do is make your pitches, and I'm going to try to hit a home run, and if you make your pitches, I'll probably strike out. And most guys are all right with that.
Looking at Givens, Castro, they're basically throwers, but they look like they have went backwards since the last couple of years. I mean, they're out there. Givens gives up a home run yesterday, throwing 3 changeups in a row, which I'm going, what is that all about?
Well, I think, with Michael, we had a talk when they made all the trades with Brock. Brock went to Atlanta and Britton went to New York last year, and O'Day was hurt, but they dumped his salary, his $9 million salary, which is actually a pretty good move because I don't think he's pitched this year, with forearm problems this year. I told Michael, I said, Michael, if you close, and I think, and this is the thing, because he's the most experienced and the guy that, he didn't have a good year last year, but until then he was something like 18-3. But he was like the, the guy that would come in with the bases loaded or a couple of guys on. So I told him, I said, if you close, which he hasn't, and I think that's the point. He's closed sometimes. But, early in the year, if you remember the first series in New York when the Orioles actually won 2 out of 3 games. In fact, the Orioles were 4-1 to start the season.
Right.
And here they are at 21-50. But, he was used in the 7th, 8th, 9th innings and whatever. So there's, I don't know if you have to have a place for everybody in your bullpen, but again, with all the guys not pitching, again, I don't know if we know enough about them to say they're not pitching up to their capabilities, but not pitching as well as you would like. Michael's had a lot of different roles. But, some games he throws 93, some games he throws 97, some, again, the usage. Buck was pretty good about not overusing guys, even though I think Castro probably got overused last year. But, you make a great point. All of them are pretty much, if you said, okay, you're a racehorse, and if you break down, in other words, if you can't throw 6 of 10 fastballs low and away, we're going to have to bring out the sheet, the lethal ejection, and we have to put you down. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's all over. It's all over. So again, it's a Richie Bancels, the Orioles trainer for years, Ross used to say, listen, it's a max effort game. So, when guys make good pitches, they have a better chance of getting guys out. And I'm not saying it's easy because it's not. The ball is lively as it is, playing in Camden Yards. You hang around the ballpark. Have you ever had a hitter ever say, hey, God, I hate hitting here at Camden?
The heavens, no. We'd love to hit there.
Yeah, so it's a tough place to pitch, and you have to really be able to pitch, and you got to be tough because you're going to give up some runs.
Right.
You try to minimize what it is, and I still remember when Chris Hoyle hit the grand slam off Sterling Hitchcock, and he goes, they ought to blow this place up, and that was probably 1993 or 4 or 5 or something like that when the ballpark first opened. So, so again, this, it's been a difficult year, because, you're kind of in games. If you look back at the first Yankees series where I think they might have hit 13 home runs here, the Orioles could have won 2 of those, 3 of those games easily if the bullpen had been like it had been in 2016, 17, 18, something like that.
The bullpen seems to be a problem in the league. I know the earned run average of the bullpen is probably highest it's been since 2000. So it's a power league. Power, swing for the fences and throw as hard as you can. Hey, let me ask you a question, Jim. And I know this is with the analytics. I know a lot of people in the game are baseball people. Are really concerned about their jobs, not knowing if they're going to have one, if they're not fully on board. And this is everywhere, everywhere I've talked. Do any of the players or coaches or pitchers, they come to you and ask for any advice or any tips or anything?
Not really, no.
And the reason I ask that is because you see that I've heard John Smoltz talk about this. He has this information and says if somebody wants it, it's there, but no one really wants it. So I'm sitting there going, why? If it's not obviously coming out of a computer, they must think it's not any good. No,
I don't think that's the case. But we were up in Colorado on it, and then Buddy Black won 127 games. A little bit like you. Where I think he won maybe 2 or 3 more games with you in the big leagues. And I don't know if his ERA was any better or worse. And I said, so tell me with all these analytics, would that, and Buddy's a bright guy. He
right.
What, 8 or 9 years down in San Diego. It's even without the live ball at 5,280 feet, it's a launching pad up there. I said, so as a former pitcher, now a manager, would the analytics help you? And he goes, I don't really know. I don't think so. I think, here's the deal. They can give you, they give you a readout of a guy's hot spots and cold spots and how he does. if you don't have a windup where you can throw to those quadrants of the game, or they're asking you to throw breaking balls when you're behind in the count, and you can't command your stuff, which is why you're behind in the count.
Right.
How do you? I know this sounds. If somebody's listening, they're going, "Well, what is he talking about?" Well, bottom line is, if you keep getting behind hitters, you got to ask yourself why. Remember Jay Howell? They got it. He pitched for the Yankees, and I used to watch him come in, and he'd be throwing 97 miles per hour, and he'd curveball for a ball, slider for ball 2, and then he'd throw 97. And I asked Jeff Torberg, who was a bullpen coach at the time with the Yankees. I said, "Can I just talk to him?" I was, I retired, and I said, "Jay," I said, "here's the deal. If you throw 97 and you're not afraid to throw it when they know what's coming, why wouldn't you just start the hitter off with that? Make a good pitch outside quarter of the plate. Work on your fastball command. Makes all your other pitches better." And I think, there are pitching coaches. You get all this information, but you got to consider who you're giving the information to, and whether they're able to use it or not. I think Bundy's done a nice job. I think, when you tell him your spin rate's better if you stand up tall, so he's worked on his windup. What was he throwing 90, 91 the other day?
Yeah.
But he has a curveball, and he has a slider, real good slider, and he's throwing more changeup. It's kind of a split changeup, so it acts as a ball that you can strike people out.
He's actually pitching.
But at the end of the day, when you throw 90 miles per hour in the middle of the plate, and you make a mistake in Camden Yards, they're going to be home runs. They're not going to be warning track fly balls. Remember when the guys used to say warning track power?
Yep.
Well, you pitched in 1977. The ball went 18 feet farther that year.
Yeah.
I can look up the year you had in 1977, but I know, my ERA went up a little bit, and my home runs went up because the ball was more lively.
Right.
And we weren't pitching in Camden Yards. So, again, it's a little more difficult, but I think, again, when you have a young staff, you can't use the analytics like you would. You take a guy like Verlander. I ran into Justin when we were leaving Houston on the way out of the ballpark on Sunday. And I said, "So how do the analytics help you?" He said, "Well, they showed me that my movement and my batting average and my results when I threw a two-seam fastball weren't as good. So I stopped throwing it." But this is a guy that throws 97, and he knows how to pitch. He won an MVP and a Cy Young, and is on his way to Cooperstown, one of the great clutch pitchers, in the postseason the last, 3 years or so. So I think with those type of guys, analytics are really good. But with some other guys, and again, I don't have anything against analytics. I was talking to Buck Showalter, and Buck would say, and he still says, I've talked to him this year on occasion, and he said, "Listen, people say, well, you're old school, you won 3 Manager of the Year awards." It's just, I told people, if you give me information that's going to help us win or be better, why wouldn't you embrace it?
Right.
But it's not an end-all, and I think people have to understand that. I think it can help the right people. David Hess is a perfect example. Went to the bullpen, now sent back to the minor leagues. He's a bright kid. He throws, 92 to 95 on occasion. Slider's flat. Curveball's inconsistent. Changeup's inconsistent. So you tell me, even though this guy is as smart as, he assesses what he should have done after he doesn't do what he should have done as well as anybody. I told him you should be a pro scout. You got to flip the switch, and you got to figure out, what do I need to do to be successful before I go out there?
Right.
So, but Ross, I don't know if you got a chance to see Ortiz on Saturday.
Yes, a little bit.
Okay. I'm looking at this windup. He had Mike's right windup. He dropped his backside, tucked his front shoulder, and then threw the ball like a discus. And he's got a pretty good arm.
Right.
I'm thinking,
he was a strike thrower.
Who taught this?
Yeah.
Who taught this guy this windup? How do you possibly have a chance to be successful? He was throwing 94 to 96, and he threw a couple of good breaking balls, but there's no way in the world you can be consistent with that kind of windup. I felt bad for Mike Wright. I thought he was in the Olympics throwing a discus. There's a guy that's 6'6",
we talked about that before. Yeah, I know.
But throwing like a merry-go-round. So, again, I was lucky enough. You had George Bamberger. George, hey, if you thought something was wrong with your mechanics, he would tell you. Otherwise, hey, throw the ball in the corner.
Right.
Ray Miller, hey, pitch quickly, throw strikes, change speeds.
Yeah.
Jim,
the assumption is that you could do that, and the only way you learn how to do that is in the minor leagues. And I hope this new wave of pitchers coming up will be able to do that a little bit better than what we're seeing this year.
How important? I mean, you've had the chance to talk to Mike Elias, and they tout themselves as having a very important background in scouting, and they place a pretty high premium on that, or they say they do, as far as their evaluating of talent and people within the organization. But do you think that that's going to help somewhat negate the problems we're talking about, where strikes aren't exactly as important as velocity?
Well, I think strikes are as important because, again, if you give all these guys analytics, they still have good quality pitches. I don't think Mike Elias is a bright guy. And he apparently he did a good job and whatever. But nobody's perfect. And,
right.
It takes, I went back to what I said earlier about patience. I think you really have to be patient. It's going to be painful. I mean, you just think about it. I mean, one of the worst trades in the history of the Orioles, for some reason, after Rick Adair ruined Arrieta, texting in the middle of the night, calling him different names and all that kind of stuff when, he would come in from doing whatever he was doing. And we traded Arrieta to the Cubs along with Stroh for Scott Feldman. Who signed Scott Feldman for 3 years for $30 million?
Wasn't it Houston?
Yeah, it was. See, so nobody's perfect. I don't know what they saw. I saw a guy that, threw 91 miles per hour with a little bit of a cutter. That was his best pitch. But they thought they could help him and whatever. Mike Elias will figure it out. I mean, it's just, again, Brandon Hyde about a month ago wistfully said, God, I hope we have some guys that we acquired in the trade last year. All the trades, 15 players or so, maybe 13 of them now. BR is one of them. Who was a major league guy who had already hit 19 home runs and led the National League in stolen bases in 2016. But all the young guys, he said, I hope some of them step up like John Means, even though Means was, through our system. I looked at the numbers like 10 days ago. Not one of the guys. I mean, the nightmare of Buck Showalter, which is, hey, we don't have any pro scouts, we don't have any analytics, we don't scout through video. Not one of those guys is having a good year.
Right.
Not one.
Yep.
One. Uno.
Right.
I mean, not one. And so, and a lot of those, and some of those guys are on the 40-man roster, so they take up spots. And and I can see that the Orioles don't want to maybe bring up some guys, when you're, already 29 games under 500. But at the end of the day, that wistful thought of Brandon Hyde, who looks, seems like a really good guy, and he seems like he knows baseball, and seems like he's probably as frustrated as all of us. None of those guys have materialized. I mean, it's funny, if you go back and look at my tweet, I said, just trade Manny for Rafael Devers. And we saw what Devers can do.
Yeah.
Devers is going to hit. Just trade him up. I mean, you think the Red Sox didn't want to win another World Series? Now, they did it anyway. But, I mean, sometimes you just... If you look at Gleyber Torres, how did they get him? They traded Chapman for him. So we had Manny Machado, we had Zach Brick, we had all these guys that were pretty good players, and who did we get for them?
Not a lot.
So it's kind of frustrating.
Not a lot. Well, one last question, Jim. Explain this to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but I see a lot more injuries in baseball since the past. And one of the questions I ask a lot of guys, yourself, I have asked Brooksy, Booger, name me a pitcher that couldn't make a start because of a leg injury. I couldn't think of anybody right offhand. I see more injuries now, and I see less running. I go to the park at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to see, or sometimes 1 o'clock to see if anybody's. You might see one guy running. What the injuries? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, they have MRIs. Let's see, I wrote this down. 1974, that was a nice year when everyone won 26 out of the last 31 that gets the Red Sox and the Yankees and us dueled after the Red Sox blew an 8-game. So what did you do? You pitched 295 innings?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Well, that was 14 innings. 14 innings one night against the Yankees.
Okay, and why did you do that? You did that because, first of all, you wanted to win. Number two, other guys, maybe not 14 innings. I think most I ever pitched was 12. But you did that because that's how you got a $15,000 raise if you won 20 games and so on and so on.
Yeah.
But if they took an MRI of your elbow in late August or maybe August 20th, might they have found some inflammation? Maybe a little. But what did you do? You hot and colded it. You took an anti-inflammatory pill or whatever. You had Ralphie Salvon try to put the Beagle oil on you.
That's it. Yep.
It's all those shutouts. And,
Beagle oil.
It's 5 straight shutouts that year.
Yeah.
Tim McCarver still tells the story. He said, I joined the Red Sox, a first-place team, and we come to Baltimore, and he said, I think Grimsley and Cuellar shut us out, then there's an off day, and then you shut us out, and then we go to New York and pitch 2 more. You were part of that run.
Yeah.
5 straight shutouts.
Right.
So you could always have, 185 innings at the All-Star break. I mean, it's just what you got paid for. I mean, Andrew Kashner, he said, I don't know how you pitched all that innings. And I said, listen, no offense, but I said, you have no idea what you could do because you don't have to do it.
Right.
And that's not a knock on the, hey,
no, it's the way it is.
If they told us, you know what, you can make a bunch of money for pitching 6 in the 3rd innings. But you know who our manager was. Weaver would have said, I'll get somebody else that can pitch 7 or 8 or 9. It's just the way it was back then. So, maybe we didn't have specialists, but we had pretty good guys in the bullpen.
Right.
And then if you didn't have a guy that Earl knew you didn't want to have come in, he'd get him up, and then you'd pitch better. So it was just a whole different game back then. And, that's kind of living back in the day.
There was a nine-man staff.
Well, 9 or 10, yeah. Early in the year, we'd probably start with 9 because we had some off days.
Yeah.
But that's why we had so many great bench players. I mean, maybe a little bit before. Well, I don't know. Let's see. I mean, you had Terry Crowley, Merv Rettenman, you had Chico Simone, you had Kurt Moten, Davey May, who went on to hit 25 or 26 home runs from Milwaukee when he eventually got to be, Crow became one of the great pinch hitters of, that era. Taking Gossage at 98, turning it around in 19 to win a ball game, and Rettenman hit 300 2 years in a row, and we had a lot of guys that could play because you had extra bench players. Now, some teams only have 3 guys on the bench, or maybe 4 with one of those guys being your catcher. So the game has changed a little bit.
I hear you. Okay, hey, one quick Earl story. I know you got 1 or 2 of them.
1 or 2?
No, just one quick one. One quick one.
Well, how about a Sunday afternoon where, I walk a couple of Boog loses the ball. Belanger makes 2 errors in the first inning, which, you want 8 gold gloves. And Boog drops a pop fly that he loses in the sun. I give up a couple of walks. Guy hits a single in the left field for 2 runs, and Earl runs out the mound. He says, "Are you effing trying?" And I said, "Excuse me?"
Yeah.
He said, I said, "Earl, what do you mean, am I effing trying?" I go, "You made out the lineup." I said, "You put Belanger out there. He never makes 2 errors, but he did." I said, "Well, why don't you go ask our our 285-pound first baseman if you try to lose that ball in the sun, because he may step on you and your life will end." So I said, "That's all you have for me to come out here, and ask me if I'm trying?" So I said, "Why don't you just get out of here?" And so he turned around and left. But probably the best one is when he wanted me to walk John Lowenstein when Brother Lowe wasn't playing for us. He wanted me to load the bases up to get to Al Oliver. Because
right.
The Sensei had thrown the ball down the right field line, and it was, tough play, and the ball went down the right field line, and it's 3-0. We hadn't scored 4 runs in a month, and Earl runs out, and he goes, "I want you to walk John Lowenstein to get to Al Oliver." And I said, "Earl, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard." "Well, maybe you'll throw a double play." I said, "I throw pop-ups, fly balls, and line drives." I said, "I don't throw double play balls." I said, "Do you really want me to walk Al Oliver on his way to about 2,800 hits?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, here's a better deal." I said, I handed him the ball. I said, "You pitch, I'm going to go manage." He goes, "Walk the guy." So anyway, Dempsey's catching that day, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I guess we're going to have to walk him." So I said, "But as far as Al Oliver," I said, "sit up about 3 inches off the outside corner. There's Bill Stein's behind him, and I put the ball in the tees." Because you have to understand, I'm about 3,500 innings into never throwing a grand slam. So I said, "Just sit off the outside corner." And I said, I'll walk Al Oliver, to get to Bill Stein, because I'm not going to throw a grand slam. We're going to lose anyway. So let's just do what I do. So we walk Brother Lowe. Now, I look in for the sign, and Demper puts down fastball. And I start to go into my windup, and he moves up and in. Now I'm thinking low and away. He's going up and in. Where's the ball going to go? It's going to go right down the middle. So I kind of I'm starting my windup, but I back off the thing, and Joe Brickman was the second base umpire, and I hear balk. I was the happiest balk I ever had in my life. But anyway, so, but Earl.
Oh, yeah.
The great thing about, the annoying thing about Earl, he was Earl. But the great thing about it is, and you went through this where he'd give you the ball. If he thought you could win, and he thought that you were going to be able to do a good job, he'd give you the ball every fourth day.
Yep, exactly right.
Back in that era, that's all you could ask.
Yep, that's all. Cakes, thank you so much, buddy, for being with us. Really appreciate it.
Can I go back and take a nap now?
You and me both.
Iron my shirts for, leaving San Francisco, going to Oakland. And
Miss Bird sends her best.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm glad she's feeling better.
Yeah, she's great. She's doing well.
Tell her I miss her.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
We'll see you in Baltimore after the All-Star break.
Got you, man. Thanks again.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye. Knew it would be a great thing. A lot of fun, great stories. Oh, I know. He can go on, and I tell you what's amazing. He remembers stuff that happened back in the '60s.
I mean, Earl.
The Earl story. We can go forever. We can go forever.
Indeed.
Anyway, join me at Press Box at Sliders on Monday, July the 8th for the All-Star Home Run Derby. It's from 7 to 9. I'll be behind the bar as a guest bartender, so come on down there. I'll be serving drinks and talking baseball. I'll even be buying the first 50 people that come their first Fancy Clancy Pilsner.
How about that?
I know. You can't beat that. The first 50 of you will get your first Fancy Clancy Pilsner on me. That's Monday, July the 8th at Sliders Bar and Grill across the street from Camden Yards. Home Run Derby, Press Box, Fancy Clancy Pilsner, and me, Ross Grimsley. Go to pressboxonline.com/Ross for details. Should be fun.
No doubt about it.
Bring your drinking shoes.
Only kind I have.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I think that's a wrap here, buddy.
Indeed.
Good time.
Always.
See you next week.
Sounds good.
All righty.